Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
15-1. 15-1. What is up? Welcome to the Game Over Winnipeg's post-game show of tonight's game between the Winnipeg Jets and the New York Rangers. My name is Ty Dilello, and I'm the host here at Game Over Winnipeg. And yeah, we're celebrating another pretty big victory over the New York Rangers, 6-3 tonight. We saw maybe not the Jets' best game of the season, I would say. We'll talk a little bit more about that into the show, but the Jets showed that they can kind of play this. They can win when they're not their best. I think Scott Arniel, the coach, has talked about it a lot. The Jets have won in a lot of different ways this year, and I think this kind of added another layer to that. I thought the Jets were a little bit sloppy, a lot sloppy at times in this game, and still were able to find their offense, were able to score some big goals. Kyle Connor led the way with 2 goals and 1 assist. Mark Scheifele had a pair of goals as well. Gabriel Velarde, a very slick and beautiful goal, and then Vladislav Nemesnikov also had the 6th goal. So the top line got their cookies tonight. Connor Hellebuck was fantastic. I think he stopped 33 shots on 36 total that were fired at him, and he kind of outdueled, I would say, Igor Shesterkin. The two best goaltenders in the entire world. As of right now, we're playing in this game tonight, and Connor Hellebuck came out victorious, which has to feel good. So before we get into the game, I'll just do a quick ad read here. I'm back. I was gone for 4 games. I was away curling in Ontario, so I'm happy to be back. You might notice I have a little bit, a lot actually. I've been pretty sick for the last about 5 days or so. Haven't had a voice, so I'm glad I'm able to talk a little bit today. My hearings also was shot from the airplane ride home. My ears were popping, and I haven't really been able to hear that well the last couple days, so I think that's slowly coming back. So I'm on the mend, but I'm happy to be here doing this show after another win. The Jets are still undefeated. When I do the show, and it's I don't know even what to say about the start of the season. We're the only team in NHL history to win 15 of their first 16 games, so it's getting pretty crazy over here. So title sponsor for us here is Hyperdrive Hockey. So check out the flagship show of Game Over Network on the Game Over Network channel. Hyperdrive Hockey, it's all things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries. Whatever it is and wherever it is, Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all of your hockey news with a steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel, or wherever you find, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find it on the GameOverNetwork.com. We post kind of the podcast there and whatnot. So, yeah, talking about the game a little bit. If you watch the game, you kind of know the first minute or so, the Rangers really kind of came out guns a-blazing, and right off the I think it was the Lowry line that gave up some pretty big chances. Hellebuck shut the door, the Rangers couldn't capitalize, and then literally right after that, Mark Scheifele just go wick wham bang, the puck's in the net, and the Jets kind of get a 1-0 lead. So that kind of got the game rolling, on the right note. It felt like it's kind of happened so many times this year. The Jets not necessarily getting the breaks, but we're kind of finding spots on the ice, finding the right spots on the ice to be successful, to lead to solid scoring chances. Able to counterattack, turning the puck up ice after we make a save. Being able to get up the ice quickly and scoring on a rush, as Scheifele did with that first goal. So, really happy to see Mark get that one. And then he scored again later in the game. Jets held on to that 1-0 lead for much of the first period. The Rangers scored, I think, around like 8 minutes, 7 minutes left in the period. Will Cooley, I think that's how you pronounce it. He got his fifth of the year. So it was 1-1 after the first period. I felt like the Jets kind of settled down after the first couple of minutes once they got the goal from Scheifele. I felt they kind of carried a lot of the play. Connor Hellebuck made some throughout the game. I guess later in the second and third period, he made some big saves. He made a lot of highlight reel saves, I felt like tonight, which is pretty uncharacteristic for Hellebuck because his positioning's so strong. You rarely don't see him like kind of flopping around and having to dive to make saves, but I guess just the way the plays were working out, or maybe he was a little bit out of position, like he was really having to have a little bit more movement in the crease, a little bit more movement around the net to make some of these saves. And you saw him kind of diving, post to post, and it didn't look as economical as it usually does. But it made for some highly entertaining saves. So I'm sure Hellebuck and the goaltending coach will kind of go through the tape tonight and kind of look at some of those saves, maybe work on some stuff. But you're not going to see any complaints from him. I don't think he played one heck of a game, and I would say was probably one of the Jets' best players on the night. I also it was 1-1 after one. Second period, Gabriel Velarde got every Jets fan out of their seats that was watching back home in Winnipeg. I was up. The hand eye on the power play, he scored about 8 minutes into the period. He took a hand eye, dropped the puck, brought it down, did a little move around the one defenseman, passed the corner quickly. It was gorgeous. It's like it was one of the nicest Jets goals of the season, and that was Velarde's now eighth straight game with a point. We're going to talk a little bit about him here in this the next part of the show. But Velarde, very streaky player, and when he's hot, he's hot. So it was great to see him bury one on the power play. But then the Rangers once again kind of right away, tied the game. They had a power play of their own, and Alexis Lafreniere kind of scored. Hellebuck was screened. It was a shot from the point. Hellebuck clearly didn't see, and it just kind of leaked in on the right side of the net. And I kind of felt like at that time when they scored, I was like, okay, is this the night the Jets lose? Is this kind of like the game where the Jets kind of lead early and then lose late that I've seen in the past? But no. Kyle Connor puts his footprint on the game, with his patented snipe, from a Neil Pionk pass to put the Jets up 3-2 in the dying minutes of the second period, and then all of a sudden, I was like, okay, Jets are gonna go 15-1. It's gonna happen. Mark Scheifele then scores a minute into the third period with his second goal of the game. Really good to see Mark get a couple goals. Always happy when the first line center scores. I have him on a couple of my fantasy teams. So yeah, it was a big night for Scheifele. That put the Jets up 4-2. Again, Rangers came back. 30 seconds later, we score, they score kind of thing. Capo Caco scored to make it 4-3, and the Jets thought about challenging for goaltender interference, but ultimately didn't. So 4-3, and I was like, okay, now are they going to come back? No. Vladislav Nemesnikov scores, 10 minutes later, and it's like, okay, the Jets are going to win. Kyle Connor adds the empty netter to make it 6-3, and, that's all she wrote. It wasn't pretty by any stretch of the imagination. I felt like the Jets was very, like I said, very sloppy at times. A lot of breakdowns that kind of Hellebuck kept out of the net. Just not the Winnipeg Jets' best performance by any stretch of the imagination compared to the last game against Dallas on Saturday. But once again, finding ways to win, winning when you're not playing your best. That's something that all athletes I think really strive for. Finding different ways to win. So it was a great win, and now we're 15-1. We're going to Tampa on Thursday to make it 16-1. There was a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk, I would say, about the Jets. They're only so good because they had a weak schedule. In the early part of the season. I was seeing posts and tweets about that. Like as up to like a couple days ago, and it's like, well, you're saying I saw one person commented on a weak schedule literally an hour after the Jets whacked Dallas on Saturday, who's notoriously one of the top teams in the NHL. So the Jets have now beat Colorado, Dallas, and the Rangers, three of the top teams in the league. We're gonna hopefully do the same to Tampa on Thursday, then make it 8-0 on the road. But whenever this kind of winning streak stops and the Jets, kind of come back to earth, but just losing is going to happen. You're not going to have a perfect season. This is amazing, but eventually the Jets will kind of come down to earth a little bit. But we've banked so many points. The playoffs are already essentially clinched, which feels, great. It feels amazing. We'll be in the playoffs again. And that's, the goal for all, you just get in, and then it doesn't really matter where you finish. You get in, see where you finish. But at the same time, can the Jets keep this up? Can we win the President's Trophy this year? Can we raise a banner, in our arena for the first time in Jets 2.0 history? We've never won a division title, never won a conference, never, won a President's, regular season trophy at all. So, that'd be certainly something. But it's fun times right now in Winnipeg. I'll say that. So let's get over to the next period now. We'll do another ad read. My voice is holding up so far. I think I'm feeling it a little bit, but we're gonna keep going here. LaRouche. Game Over is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. So if you're interested in supporting the Game Over network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode, you'll find a link to our Patreon page, and we're also working on a page through LaRouche, which is a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec, which is why I probably never heard of it until I started doing these ad reads. So for LaRouche, that's La and then R-U-C-H-E, we're aiming to raise $15,000. And if we hit that goal, we'll gain access to government grants that will allow us to employ more people. So if you have any ideas for what you'd like to see as giveaways from these crowdfunding efforts, please let us know in the comments on Twitter, Instagram, or our ever-growing Discord server, where there's a lot of fun stuff happening there, including catching Pokemon, which I don't really know how it works, but I get to catch a Pokemon every day on this Discord server. It's kind of fun, it's kind of rolling the dice and see who you get. Yeah, come check it out. There's a lot of great people. We have a lot of great quality hosts, in every NHL city in Canada. We have a lot of great people here, kind of from all walks of life, which is great. Everyone's welcome, very inclusive, and yeah. I want to talk a little bit now in the second period. Gabriel Vilardi, a player who I really like. I really liked him in LA. I really liked him on the Jets last year when he was healthy. He's someone that I have. I'm in I think 5 or 6 fantasy hockey leagues. Some pretty serious ones, and he is on all but one of them. So he's somebody that I value tremendously. I'm very thankful that he's stayed so healthy. Fingers crossed that he continues to stay healthy this season, because I think that he's a potential 35-40 goal scorer if he plays a full 80-82 game season. And he's it's good to see him playing well, I guess, is the thing. He had a very slow start to the season. In the first handful of games, I was kind of worried, like, is he lost a step? Is he just, slowly kind of coming out of the gates? Then I remembered last year he is a very streaky, as, some goal scorers are, a la Kyle Connor used to be, in that he might go games, stretches of, 5-6 games where he doesn't get any points, but then he puts up 10 points in 6 games, and you go, okay. He's kind of, when he's got the hot hand, look out. And He has now, I believe, points in his last 8 games, 9 of his last 10 games. Um, he's back, as far as I'm concerned. He's nearly a point per game player, at this point this season. He's caught up, despite the slow start, which is really great to see. I think Gabriel Velarde brings a ton. He's kind of I would say, like, kind of the perfect, complementary, right winger to play on that top line with Scheifele and Connor, or whoever you put with Mark Scheifele on that first line, whether that's Nikolai Ehlers or Kyle Connor. Right now, this Kyle Scheifele and Connor line has gotten a ton of runway, I would say, and rightfully so. They kind of deserve it. They're trying to prove maybe the naysayers wrong, that they can play 5-on-5 well and produce more than they give up. They did so tonight. They've done so a lot this season. So until that changes, I think you're going to see a lot more Connor, Scheifele, Velarde first line, 5-on-5 and power play time. They're everywhere. When these guys get the puck, they're constantly passing. They're so fast with the puck. They're constantly making passing plays. Tic-tac-toe. The Velarde goal, I'll talk about again. That was just unreal. The hand-eye coordination to kind of do all of that on the fly like that. The give and go with Connor in front of the net was amazing. They scored on the play. It was fantastic. Kind of that's kind of when Velarde is at his best, when he's kind of doing stuff, in front of the net, when he's using his quick hands, when he's doing these, shifts. Because I would say that he scores, 85% of his goals are, within like a foot or two of the crease and stuff. So him scoring tonight, was a big indication of that. What does this kind of mean in the long term with the Jets? I think that Gabriel Velarde, is a Jet that can be here for a long time in Winnipeg. If management, if he's kind of handled right. I think that he likes playing here. I think that he loves the role that he has. He did not get to be a first line player in Los Angeles. He was obviously he was young. He was in and out of the lineup due to health, but in the Jets, since he's joined the Jets, he's been able to flourish and play predominantly on the first line for his entire time here so far. Something maybe Nikolai Ehlers is kind of scratching his head at, because he's been here for 8 years and hasn't seen line one time almost at all. But yeah, love Ehlers too for sure, and him being on power play 1 now was kind of giving that power play 1 an extra boost. You're seeing all the results from this year. We scored again, scoring more power play goals this game. It's really been a sight to behold. So let's as we go to the third period, let's do another ad read. Game On Winnipeg. Yes, I've been doing these Game On ad reads, and I think we're finally going to have Game On Winnipeg soon. So yeah, Game Over, what you're watching now, has you covered after the game. But in order to get ready to watch the Jets, you've got to get your Game On too. So Game On Winnipeg is a short-form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the Winnipeg Jets. Debuting soon. I've been saying that this entire year, and we haven't started yet. But soon, next week, hopefully. Harrison Lee, I believe, is going to be the Jets host for that. So soon, you'll be able to get all your Jets news in under 10 minutes. Monday through Friday on the Game Over Winnipeg YouTube channel and in podcast form, which you can find at thegameovernetwork.com/pages/Winnipeg. So I've been kind of watching some of the other NHL Canadian markets, our Game On shows, and they're very informative. They kind of give you quick hits. They talked about the game last night. Kind of news around the NHL or news surrounding, the host city in question. It's really quick, it's informative, it's worth checking out. So yeah, hope to see you here on the Game On Winnipeg channel as well. Third period. Because the Jets played the Rangers tonight, I thought I would talk a little bit about my late friend Bob Crystal. Bob Crystal was a Winnipegger. He played 2 seasons with the New York Rangers from 1953 to 1955. He passed away last year at the age of 92. He was, the last I would say, of an old guard of Winnipeg NHLers from the early '50s, late '40s, that were in town living. Um, yeah, Bob was great. Bob was a good friend. I even wrote a book. I wrote a book about actually, well, Bob wrote the book. I guess was the ghostwriter, I would say, but we worked together on this book called "Block That Shot," the Bob Crystal story. That was a couple of years before he passed away. Talks about all of his life, life in Winnipeg, life in New York, being a professional hockey player in the early 1950s. Um, yeah, Bob was great. Bob grew up in the west end of Winnipeg. Played at Orioles Community Club, Valor Road, around that area. Kind of by he lived a street over from where the Polo Park shopping center is now on the west end side. And back when he was growing up, it used to be the Polo Park racetrack. So it used to be kind of shows you. And past the racetrack, it was all rural prairie stuff. So the city's really developed over the years. So I had met Bob. I think in 2017. I had called him up to interview him about a friend of his, goaltender Sugar Jim Henry. He was a Boston Bruins goalie from the 50s. As I was including him, Henry, in my book Golden Boys, which ranked the top 50 Manitoba hockey players of all time. So I talked to Bob for that. He was great. And then I started kind of researching, Bob a little bit, and I thought, maybe I should kind of talk to him and get his story. So I called up, Bob one day, and said, hey, love to talk about your career. He invited me over. In that first meeting, we must have sat at his, dining room table and talked for 3-4 hours. I recorded everything. He brought out old scrapbooks with news clippings, photos, as we kind of went through his career, and he kind of regaled with lots of stories, lots of tales. So I really enjoyed it. So I ended up doing that a couple more times. Coming over to his house in St. James on Rita Street. And we would talk for hours. I would record our conversations, and then it got to the point where it was like, well, I kind of have enough here to do a whole book on you if you're interested. And he thought that was very kind that a young writer was taking an interest on someone like him that wasn't a superstar in the NHL by any means, but as someone that played in the original 6 era when there were only 6 teams in the NHL. And him being a defenseman for one of those teams, in those days they carried 4 defensemen, that, which means that he would have been, one of the best, 25 defensemen in the world at that time. So he was very, I think, appreciative of that, and me in writing his story, and so we wrote this book together. Lots of pictures. It's about 300 pages. It's not available on Amazon. I'm not saying that. If you're interested in reading it, pick it up or shoot me a message. Maybe I'll send you a copy. It's a lot of good stories here about a good Winnipeg boy who went on to play in the National Hockey League in the 50s for the Rangers. A lot of stories of him living in New York. He was a teammate of players like Andy Bathgate, Johnny Bauer, Gump Worsley, Max Bentley, stuff like that. A lot of good tales. A lot of culture shock too back in those days. Him being a pro hockey player, coming from Winnipeg to living in the big city, like New York, when he was only in his early 20s, with a new wife and some new babies on the way. It's just a different time period back then. Just a lot different, that's for sure. The players didn't make very much. I think his biggest salary was in the neighborhood of $5,000 a year. And some players make more than that in one period of play in this NHL. So a lot of love for Bob Crystal. He treated me he was a third grandpa to me. I think that he, felt I was a grandson to him. And we spent a lot. I got to know him for the last 5-6 years of his life. Him and his wife Mimi, they were just salt of the earth people. Can't say enough good things. A lot of hours, a lot of late nights at their place, talking and laughing and hanging out. Bob got sick towards the end. He was still living at home up till he was about 91. Until he had cancer. Eventually was at the Riverview Hospital. I went up to visit him a couple times, then he ultimately passed away in January of 2023 at the age of 92. So I don't want to get too sad on you guys here, but a lot of respect for Bob Crystal. If you ever want to check him out, Google him, look at his stats. Winnipeg, Manitoba Hockey Hall of Famer, Winnipeg hockey legend, kind of the last guard of a kind of a bygone era of hockey, Winnipeg and the NHL. So here's to you, Bob Crystal. Do one more ad read, and we'll get out of here. Merch. Yeah, we cannot forget the merch. I'll put it up on the screen here. Look at that. What better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, which is currently on sale, want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our Live and Die by the Goalie design, or if you just need another coffee to get you through the winter, we have you covered. We got mugs designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on the screen now and take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. So, yeah, check it out. Buy something if you can. It supports all of us, supports the cause, and they're great. There's a lot of good Jet stuff, or from our other markets. A lot of good clothing. My voice is barely holding on. I'm sure you can tell. So we're gonna wrap this up soon. And yeah, that's check out some merch. Check out that QR code and help sponsor the show a little bit. My other Game Over Winnipeg host, Brendan Labarre, thank you for tuning in and giving me one comment tonight. I appreciate it. Velarde was also rated very highly in his draft year. If he could skate, he'd be a top 20-ish player in this league. So good. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I remember that draft quite well. Him going to LA, someone that I kind of wanted to see on the Jets, possibly. And then when the Dubois was kind of rumored to go to LA, I got excited because I thought it was either going to be Velarde or Byfield kind of coming back in that deal. I assumed the Kings wanted to keep hold on to Byfield, which I think worked out for them too. But Velarde's been fantastic. He's great. I think Brendan, we're going to be very excited watching him, the rest of the season going forward. Hopefully he's a Jet in the long term. Wouldn't mind getting a Velarde jersey, my fellow Italian. And yeah, a lot of great things for him. So, Brendan, you also did a great job for the 4 games I was away. I tried to tune into the shows as good as I could. But yeah, you held down the fort really good. I was curling in St. Catharines, Ontario last week, and playing for Team Manitoba in the mixed Canadian Curling Nationals. It was a lot of fun playing mixed. We ended up finishing 4th out of the 14 teams there. So, pretty good week. Although we didn't accomplish our goal of winning gold or even a medal. Sadly, we lost the semifinal and then the bronze medal game. We got whacked twice. It was still a fun experience. Fun experience, good curling, beautiful time out in St. Catharines. So yeah, we'll wrap up the show now. We're going to be back on Thursday night. The Jets play against the Tampa Bay Lightning at 6 o'clock Winnipeg time. I will be back for that one as well. Hopefully feeling a little bit better. Hopefully the voice is kind of back to normal. Hopefully I can hear fully again. Fingers crossed. So from everybody here at the Game Over Network and at Game Over Winnipeg, we thank you for tuning in tonight to this Jets post-game show with the Rangers. 15-1 feels amazing. And it's a great time in Winnipeg right now, and we're hopefully keep it going for as long as we can because it's this run that we're on is quite special. Kind of feels like feel like we're in the Moneyball movie from a few years back with the Oakland A's. So thank you guys. See you on Thursday. Peace.